On the 19th of March of the year 2022, a YouTube channel called The Experiment was first created. Now, this is a truly bizarre channel. Throughout the 3 years that they've been on the platform so far, they've only uploaded 6 separate videos. And none of these videos have a description, or even an explanation behind their creation. The audience is simply left to their own devices to fill in the gaps. Needless to say, you come away with far more questions than answers. So what exactly does the content featured on this channel consist of? Well, see for yourself. Within every single one of the videos featured on this channel, a person is shown lying on the floor of a dark room with their wrists bound and a bag over their head. Repeatedly, this person attempts to escape their predicament. On occasion, the person even manages to actually escape, or at least appears to. There's essentially no audio to be heard throughout any of these videos. Every once in a while, a seemingly disguised figure will enter the frame. Is this the person holding the victim hostage somewhere? Unfortunately, it's impossible to know what's really going on here with so little context provided. In all likelihood, this channel is nothing more than another ARG attempt, or at least something similar. However, there's no real way to know for sure, and within this sick world that we all live in, there's always a chance that everything we're seeing here is 100% genuine. Either way though, there's no denying that the Experiment channel makes for a very dark YouTube rabbit hole.
We're about to witness the birth of a new world of darkness and evil.
How much time do you spend on YouTube? An hour a day? 2 hours? More? Whatever it is, there isn't enough hours in a full lifetime to watch all of the content uploaded to the platform in just a single month. Of course, most of this content is completely benign and inoffensive. However, there is a whole nother side to YouTube. A side that's not just cute kitty content or mukbang videos. A much darker side. And it is my goal on this channel to document all of it, for the enjoyment of other sick freaks like me. So buckle up, and let's once again dive back into the muck. In the year 2011, a man named Jacob Cokel from West Cornwall, England, started a YouTube channel called Whirlpool Hitman. Here he would upload footage of his experiences diving into literal whirlpools, as well as a handful of other extreme and dangerous activities, including cliff jumping and the exploration of local caverns. To say that Jacob was a bit of an adrenaline junkie would be an understatement. As of the creation of this video, Whirlpool Hitman boasts 146,000 subscribers, and certainly that's a number to be proud of. Jacob was well known in his local area, and was even becoming known throughout all of his native England as well. Several different times his profile and photos had been featured in various surfing magazines, as well as even making it into the pages of National Geographic itself. I think it's pretty safe to say that Jacob was living quite large. However, it was well known to his family and friends that the young man enjoyed pushing events to their very edge, arguably even going sometimes too far. Despite his love for caving and cliff jumping, the main draw of his YouTube channel could be found right there in its title, the whirlpools themselves. Within some of these videos, Jacob would toss various objects into these deadly vortexes and watch them as they were sucked under the churning surface of the water. However, the far more popular uploads on the channel consisted of Jacob himself diving into the frothing abyss. Obviously, this is an extremely dangerous and ill-advised activity to partake in. The current of some of these whirlpools is so strong that they can easily pull you under the surface in a matter of mere moments, and before you even know what hit you, it's already too late. On the 28th of May of the year 2013, a certain whirlpool that Jacob really wanted to try and swim in made its fateful return, and the young man was on a mission to capture this footage for his YouTube channel. That afternoon, Jacob showed up at his friend's home, a man named David Rains, and asked him to hold the camera and film as he dove into the whirlpool. In the past, the two men had worked together on video projects, and so David agreed to help. To make things a bit more comedic and visually interesting for his viewers, Jacob brought along a rubber horse mask for him to wear as he dove. To begin the video, while wearing the horse mask, Jacob floated around the far edge of the vortex, without allowing the strong current to pull him any further into its center. Jacob was known to tell his friends that swimming within a whirlpool was actually very similar to surfing, and that it was all about flowing along with the current. After filming for close to half an hour, David decided that they had sufficient footage, and attempted to persuade Jacob to leave with him. Jacob, however, was fully dedicated to pushing his limits. Instead of just calling it a day and going home, the young man instead grabbed his GoPro and decided to get a bit more footage under the water. And unfortunately, this fateful decision would end up costing him his life. After a few moments of Jacob submerged in the water, David began to worry, as Jacob still had not resurfaced. Tragically, just mere moments later, David would spot his friend's lifeless body floating face down in the water nearby. Instantly, a sinking feeling hit David's gut. From his vantage point, he could tell that it was clearly far too late. In March of the year 2014, Jacob's final video would be uploaded to his YouTube channel. At the tail end of this video, the haunting words, quote, "Live as if you were to die tomorrow. Learn as if you were to live forever," flashed across the screen. Truly wise words to try and live by. Jacob Kokol was only 28 years old when he tragically lost his life doing exactly what he loved most in this world. Being as popular and as admired as he was, Jacob's funeral was attended by far more people than the small local church could comfortably accommodate. A year following this tragic death, the harbor where Jacob lost his life was refurbished, and throughout this process, the whirlpool that had killed him was destroyed forever. And not to be too presumptuous here, but I believe I can speak for everyone watching this when I say, rest in peace to the brave young man known as Jacob Kokol, who lost his life that day. If you find yourself becoming morbidly curious, however, his YouTube channel, Whirlpool Hitman, still exists to this very day. And visiting it these days, after knowing the awful fate that befell its owner, makes for quite the dark YouTube rabbit hole. To the outside observer, Peter Keller appeared to be nothing more than your ordinary, run-of-the-mill, middle-aged family man. Together, he and his wife Lynette raised their 18-year-old daughter Kayleen. However, when Peter wasn't spending time with his family, he was known to disappear into a nearby forest for hours at a time. You see, within the depths of those towering trees, Peter was working on a project that he was also documenting in a series of video confessionals. And out there in that dark forest was the one single place that Peter could allow his true self to rise up to the surface. As all of this was taking place, the daughter, Kayleen, was set to begin college in the autumn. Kayleen also shared her father's love of recording, and she was known to document the various ins and outs of the family's everyday existence. For her part, the wife, Lynette, also ran her own YouTube channel, where she shared glimpses of all the arts and crafts she enjoyed creating around the house. So far, so normal.
Alright, so this is the rest of them. I know it doesn't really hurt that much in here, but believe me, I've cut up a lot of things.
However, it would soon be revealed that the family wasn't as ordinary as they first appeared. The cracks were there, and they were beginning to widen. Out in those woods, Peter had been creating his own private lair, which he dubbed Camp Keller. On a daily basis, it wasn't out of the ordinary for Peter to spend upwards of 10 hours working on this bizarre project. Unfortunately, the family wasn't very well off financially, but this fact didn't stop Peter from spending thousands and thousands of dollars on the construction of this so-called camp. And he would drop even more cash on a veritable arsenal of firearms as well. If you're a fan of true crime, then you know that this never bodes well.
Well, it's about 2 weeks before the end. This is going to be my last video, probably till after that.
In addition to these firearms, and of course all of the tools that he used to actually create the place, Peter also loaded his camp down with food and drink. And this entire structure, built out in the middle of nowhere, would be powered by a single generator. I have to admit, the construction itself was rather impressive for one man to create. The camp even featured its own wood-burning stove, complete with an actual chimney. However, this chimney would end up coming back to haunt Peter. But why exactly did Peter spend all this time, effort, and money creating this strange so-called camp in the first place? Well, this is where our story takes a dark turn. Peter's ultimate goal was to completely abandon society entirely. Peter would often love bomb his wife with various gifts in order to keep her from noticing just how much time he was spending outside of the home. On the 22nd of April of the year 2012, the truth behind Peter's bizarre activities would finally be revealed. On that day, the silence of the sleepy neighborhood would be shattered by an enormous explosion. Looking out of their windows, neighbors saw that the Keller family home was engulfed in flames. Firefighters quickly descended upon the home, completely unbeknownst of the real extent of the danger that they were stepping into. Following the extinguishing of the flames, the authorities quickly realized that Peter was nowhere to be found. The police soon learned that the family patriarch had recently withdrawn over $6,000 from the family bank account. Following this discovery, just a few hours later, investigators located Peter's vehicle, which was parked in the downtown area with the key still left in the ignition. However, this discovery, as useful as it was, still didn't provide them with any clues as to Peter's current whereabouts. Back within the destroyed home, police came across a hard drive that was chock full of the previously mentioned video confessionals that Peter enjoyed filming. And melted to the stove was an empty gas can, which police surmised was used to start the fire to begin with. And if that weren't sinister enough, the authorities also uncovered a homemade explosive device hidden within the home. Obviously, things could have gone much worse for the firefighters initially responding to the blaze than they did. However, this still wouldn't be the worst thing found within that home. Tragically, in the bedroom, 2 bodies were discovered. Somehow, these two remained completely untouched by the flames. Police surmised that Peter had set the fire in order to destroy evidence, but luckily, something didn't go according to plan. The two bodies were identified, of course, as Peter's wife Lynette and their daughter Kayleen. Both of the victims had been shot in the head. Those previously mentioned videos Peter loved to film now provided insight into the mind of a murderer. As police combed over these videos, they began to realize that there were clues to Peter's current whereabouts sprinkled within. And so they began searching the forest, looking for any trace of the so-called Camp Keller. Luckily, by studying these videos and photos, investigators were able to recognize certain landmarks in the background and greatly narrow down the search area. As the investigation continued, SWAT officers began conducting a sweeping search of Rattlesnake Ridge trailhead, and it wouldn't be long before they came across a set of relatively fresh footprints. Smoke was also visible rising from Peter's homemade chimney. Even with all these clues, though, the area was still vast and very remote, and so the search took them a further 6 days. Eventually, however, they succeeded. After finally isolating the camp, SWAT teams broke out the tear gas. However, Peter refused to surrender and exit his bunker, and the authorities were very aware that he was most likely armed and extremely dangerous. The standoff persisted for a full 24 hours. In the end, the authorities decided that the best course of action would be to smash in directly through the ceiling in order to gain access to the shelter. Once finally inside, police discovered that Peter Keller had chosen to take his own life rather than face the consequences of his actions. The remaining cash that Peter had stored in his camp was eventually donated to a scholarship fund set up in the name of his wife and daughter. Peter Keller's video confessionals remain some of the darkest and most disturbing footage ever uploaded to YouTube.